everyone, it's Brent in Central Arkansas. I thought I'd show you how I prune my tomatoes. And so pruning is pretty cut and dry, really, if you think about it. In the greenhouse, you want to control the bushiness of it, so you'll want to trim out some of the suckers. And outside, you may not want to trim out the suckers. Suckers are just, you know, pruning them, it's a preference. I don't think there's any science behind one way or the other being better. Now, you will get all kinds of opinions on which way is better. But generally speaking, in a greenhouse environment, you want to sucker the tomatoes to kind of keep them under control so you can walk around. Let's look at tomato in a tomato cage. Let's identify the parts of a tomato plant. This is an indeterminate. An indeterminate means it grows and grows and grows and never stops growing. The tip will keep getting longer and longer and longer, and every place that puts out a growing stem or sucker, it'll continue to grow. A determinate tomato is simply one that gets about 3 or 4 feet, stops growing, and all the tomatoes kind of ripen at the same time. But we're not going to go into determinates. I prefer myself indeterminates. And but anyway, let's get into it. Let's identify here first. Taking a look, you'll see that we have a leaf right here that comes off the main stem. See that right there, that main stem or stalk? That's the main part of the tomato plant. And then you have a leaf, and in the crotch between the stem, which is here, and the leaf is what's often called a sucker. And that's just another growing tip. And that's what tomatoes do. They grow a lot of these suckers in between, and the purpose of that is to get bushy, long, and in the wild they will touch ground, and everywhere they touch ground they'll root, and anyway it ensures their survival. When you're in the greenhouse, like I'm going to show you here, you would want to prune the suckers, and see how easy that was. And so I got another one here, just spin it one way and the other way, bang, right off, just like that. Now I have found a sucker that is too big, probably, to bend over, and I don't want to risk ripping it out and damaging the plant. See this sucker here? It grows up all the way to there. And it is competing with this one, and sometimes it can get confusing on which one is the sucker and which one's the main stem. If you'll always keep in mind that a sucker is between a leaf and the stem in the crotch area, you'll always get it right. Now here's a caution for you, okay? A lot of times a tomato will self-terminate at the growing tip. If you're going to sucker plants or remove the growing stems, like this one here, be careful before you remove the topmost sucker, to check that it has a growing tip. In fact, I will leave a sucker, the topmost sucker, on for a while after this one has gotten a cluster of tomatoes, just to make sure I have an alternative growing tip. Let me take you to a tomato that has a terminating end, like I was telling you. Now this is a very beautiful tomato, nice and healthy, luscious. And you'll see here it comes to a little Y. The Y to the right is a big flower cluster area. The one to the left is a leaf. There is no growing tip on this tomato. And in fact, I have removed the sucker just as I told you not to, right here. Now I have no growing tip on this tomato. The good news is sometimes a tomato will resucker at another point even though you've removed them, or resucker at a place you've already removed. Now I've come over here to this particular tomato just so you can see an example of how it can get confusing. See the flower branch here? The flower truss? It is almost like right in the middle of what appears to be a Y. You've got one sucker here going off over there, and then you have one sucker here going off over there, and they are almost the same height. But you can tell, it doesn't really matter which one you pick off. But what I'd try to do is I look for the next available cluster of tomatoes, which there's one in the very top up there. And if the one that has the next tomato cluster, I don't remove that one, I remove the other one if it's questionable. And sometimes, especially when you have heirlooms, there is an actual Y, and they are equally the same going up, including the flower clusters. In that case, you just pick one. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove this sucker right here. Boom, gone. Whoop, hit the camera too. How about that? That's what I call an action shot. Bam. That is a big sucker right there. Another area of the tomato that needs attention if you're growing outside in the garden or in the greenhouse is the bottom of the plant. Any leaf contact with a soil or a medium is a potential disease risk. So what you want to do is you want to clean out the bottom of any leaves or suckers that are touching the bottom. Now we're back at the original tomato, the one I was talking to you about, and it is woolly. I wanted to kind of give you a look at what one looks like woolly. And there she is, all cleaned up. Much better. Take a look at that baby San Marzano. Isn't that a pretty thing there? Have you ever seen tomato pollen drop? Let's see if we can get it to do it. For the camera. And there you go. It's kind of neat, isn't it? Just a quick look at one of my tomatoes. This is Succeed. Take a look at that flower cluster there. That one's looking promising. Go up a little bit, and there's another one coming on. Beautiful, beautiful tomatoes. This is Brent in Central Arkansas, y'all. We'll talk to you soon.